right. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me or not. Get this done here today. Hi, everyone. Hi, Barry. Hi, Dennis. Nice to see you here. It was nice to see you here early in the chat, Barry. I hope you guys can hear me. Oh, probably not. How about now? All right, here we go. Is it working? Let me know, guys. I got some fun stuff to talk about today. So I'm just waiting 1 second for a couple people to roll in. Oh no, where'd my phone? Oh, there it is. All right, so just 1 second. Hang tight. I'm gonna see. Yeah, I'm gonna get one of my moderators in here. Oh, there she is. There she is. All right. Okay, I'm ready. As long as Miss Liz is in here, I got at least one moderator. I feel good to go. Okay. So yeah, I'm talking about some crazy stuff today. All right, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna. Hopefully, I'm showing too much here, guys. I'm sorry about that. Oh, put that back a little bit. Okay, so let's recap a little bit from last week because I definitely got a lot of synchronicities and signs that rewarded me really for being willing to speak up, I would say. And Spirit had been pushing me to they've been pushing me to share some of the stuff that I'd shared last time. And I was really hesitant about it. I really did not want to go very much into it because like I kind of said to you guys, like this is like it's like my pearl. Okay. It's my most sacred moment basically in my life so far. Okay. But they pushed me and they wanted me to do it before this container that I was actually taking part in called the Womb Healing 3 container with Z Earth Star Healer and 2 other wonderful ladies. And wouldn't you know it, after I did my stream and we went into the container that weekend, I got so many more synchronicities and confirmations that it was like, okay, so this is what's happened. This is what's happening with me. A girl who loved God so much, she decided to marry him. And now I have my sacred divine union marriage within myself, the Hermos Gamos reunion of coming into oneself. So some other things that I wanted to recap on was, I talked a little bit about some of the patterns that I had seen with my own children, about all my sons. I have 5 sons, okay, and all of them asking to marry me about the age of 5 or 6. And I had wondered, I'd asked the question, I'd wondered, what about my daughter? How is this going to be different for her? And, I always plan these live streams. I have to wait till she's actually at her dad's for a couple days for me to really have the time and the space to like pull everything that I want to talk about together. And so I have to wait for her to not be here for me to do these things. So she hadn't heard, she wasn't around for any of the things I was talking about. So it was very funny that when she came home, the first thing she did was she went to this little garage sale down the street from my house here. And she brought back 2 things for me. She came home and she gave me this bracelet of a rose. I was like, oh, so she hands me this bracelet. And then she hands me this bouquet of flowers. And she says, Mommy, I want to marry you. And I was like, what? Like, so even my daughter, like, what is going on? I guess I'm just the marrying type. I don't know. But, the whole thing with the Sacred Divine Union is marrying all aspects of God. So, we all are God, and I definitely love feeling fulfilled and connected to people in such loving and deep ways. And I'm very grateful for the experiences that I've had with my children. And just really figuring out, like, how all this programming stuff happens for our own self. And they've given me a lot of good examples of how it's happened for me and how it's even playing out in my life right now. Because, even with my daughter, when I find myself having struggles with her and I find myself reacting in certain ways, and it totally flashes me back, and it totally reminds me of things in my childhood. But even when she was younger, things that I wouldn't have been able to remember at her age, because we don't usually remember before the age of 4, things that I knew when she was that young, any initial knee-jerk reaction responses I had, these were examples. These are things that I struggled with, that my mom had probably treated me in the same way. And now here I was, just that was my automatic kick in. Things that, like, getting frustrated with kids and how you handle that type of thing, So these patterns, even though we might not be able to recognize them, okay, because we don't even a lot of times remember them, there are clues. There are always clues showing us, what actually we experienced when we were younger. And it's going to come through how we feel about other children, even like, even the age ranges and stuff like that, where how you were treated during those certain age ranges are going to be usually, I find, the naturally reflected in how you feel towards how certain children of those ages act. If like your parents, you got on their nerves for some reason, let's say you came and you started being really talkative, and and now, like, because that definitely happened to me. I think I was very talkative. I think I was a bit much for my mom to handle, and she, at certain points, it got annoying to her. And so I've had to learn to recognize that and nip it in the bud, kind of say, and try to find a different way, because there's got to be a different way. It's really just about fixing those old programs and getting them out of there. So the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit too was, I don't know if anyone else has been experiencing this, but for the past, I don't know, months, I would have to say it's been months. It's not every night, but it's quite often. I'm just not a very good sleeper. I'm a very light sleeper as it is already. And for me, these past couple nights, especially last night, I just could not sleep. I woke up about 4 a.m, and my whole body just feels like it's being plugged into an electrical socket. And I just have all of this energy and like electricity flowing through me, to the point where it's actually kind of painful. And I don't even know what to do with it. And, and at one point, I would say back in this past December or whatever, I was up, and I was struggling with these pains that they go through my hands, they go through my arms. It's just all this energy going through me, just, God. So I was trying to sleep, okay, and I had the TV on, but I was like, oh man, I just want it to be dark in here. I put my head over my pillow. It just did not seem to be working, and I put my hands over my eyes like this to go to sleep. And that's when I realized that actually it didn't get darker when I put my hands over my eyes. It got lighter. So when my body was buzzing like this, it actually looked like I had flashlights in my hands, like little flashlights. And when I put my hand, and I think it was my third eye actually picking up my energy body, my light body. So if you guys are struggling with any of that, I'd definitely be interested in hearing, if anyone else is feeling this type of thing. I'm not sure if it has to do with body upgrades or what's going on. I'm not sure. So anyway, let's get back to what I plan on talking about today, because I wanted to go more into the sacred marriage that I experienced, and the preparations, once I really stopped and thought about it, and especially going over this past weekend of events, okay, and all the new information that I was, I had to stop and think about it. Well, were there things that I did that prepared me for this? And there was things that I did naturally, that I did not realize that this was spirit actually preparing me to have this experience and this union with God, where basically my divine masculine and my divine feminine were married. Okay. And I hate when I go and So here we go. So what were the preparations that I made? Well, the first thing that I think that was really important, okay, was that I got clear on what it was that I was actually even wanting to do here on this planet. It's not even that I for sure knew exactly what my mission was at that point, but I knew that what I wanted to focus on was what my mission for God was, and figuring that out, and figuring out who I was as the most important thing. Like, in my past, everyone, it seems like everyone goes through these roller coasters of, wanting to be happy, wanting to be, in a relationship, have a companion, have a partner in life, and I had not been an exception to that. Like, that was the majority of my focus for, growing up and having children and all of that stuff. It's a very exciting thing. Relationships are very exciting. And I guess I should say, I definitely do understand why people long for this thing, you know? But I got to the point where I was more interested in forming that relationship inside of myself. Because, like I said, I thought, well, if what you create, okay, if what you want to see on the outside has to first start on the inside, then I decided, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start creating this relationship in my mind already. I'm going to basically visualize the the actual relationship of my divine masculine and my divine feminine, because no doubt if I was having problems outside of myself, I would think that that was a reflection of something inside of myself where they just weren't communicating properly, and I wanted to bring them back towards that. But there were other more concrete and 3D things that I did for this occasion, and I'm going to tell you about some of those. So the first big thing I had to do, and I'm going to go more into this story um, later on in the stream, but the first thing I had to do was get really honest with myself. I had to get really honest with the current state of my life and the relationships in my life. And I had to clean up the mess that I had made with those by being completely and totally honest in a way I'd not done before. In a way that or at least I thought when I had done it, it'd been so long that it was something completely new and scary to me again. Also, yeah, I've got an airplane going on right now. But I do know someone commented to me that sometimes the birds get a little bit loud in here. I don't even hear them anymore. So, if you guys are hearing the birds, let me know, and maybe I can turn down my mic or something like that. But let's get back to what I was talking about. So the first thing I had to do was get real about what was most important to me. I had to prioritize what was most important to me. I'd already been cleaning up my diet. I'd already been cleaning up my mind with the Course in Miracles. I learned to undo a lot of the programming of who I thought I was as opposed to what I really was and what was important. And yeah, let's keep going. I had to clean that up. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. So I changed my diet. I'd also started doing a lot of Qigong, and the reason for me even starting to do this was I'd been doing Pilates and meditations and things like that. But what got me to really start working out a lot and doing the Qigong, honestly, was I had heard my teacher, Z, Earth Star Healer, she had said something about, in order to even harness in the God frequency, the light frequencies, the higher the vibration of them, the more energy it's going to take in your physical body. And if you don't have muscle mass, if you don't have your body built up with nutrients and stuff like that, then you really won't be as much of an effective vessel for channeling God's love and light. So that was another thing I started doing. I started preparing myself for this reunion by doing more exercise, by being more disciplined, by taking more supplements like monoatomic metals, okay, silver and gold and ormus. Let's see, what else did I do? I also ended up, and I did talk about this. I was taking the first womb healing course about a couple months before the event happened to me, and before that, I had had a completely different experience with sexuality. Okay, and after that, this completely, like, it was basically to clear all cords from past lovers and to clear the womb space and to to correct the spin of the root chakra, because from my understanding of it, from what I was learning, was that that's one of the ways that they keep us from being able to reach our full potential, is by having made sure that we have these J seals and all these things that they put in place, and the spin of the actual chakras is reversed. So that was my first, one of the things I was really focused on was, well, I want to get that turned back on. And, and I did feel it. I did feel it quite a few times during the meditations and the sound healings that we were doing in our classes and that we did for this womb healing container, the first one. And, there were times I actually could feel them working on my heart, and it like clicked back in and it started spinning right. And the way I think that I could tell when the root chakra had been corrected, and I've spoke about this before, is because the quality and the flow of sexual energy in my body changed. Okay, so like I'm okay. So like orgasms changed. Okay, so beforehand, where the orgasms they would disperse, and the energy, it would just kind of leak out. It would kind of go downward. I noticed this, how it felt, because I'm very body conscious. I'm very aware inside my body. I'm very sensitive to the feelings of it and where things go inside of me. I've always been like that, though. I've always been very aware of paying attention because like I said, I like anatomy and physiology, so I've always been able to really focus on oh, well, this pain, I can tell where it's coming from. I can tell it's coming from this organ. I can tell, oh, this is a duct, this is something going on. So so yes, I could feel the difference in the orgasm change from going outward and just leaking out, okay, to now it was going upwards and it was flowing into my organs and it was flowing up and out. And it wasn't, there was even a difference in how I felt afterward, where it's like, I think a lot of times it can, when it's not corrected, it can leave you feeling maybe a little empty afterward, and like, oh, the excitement was so great, and then the buildup, and then now it's gone, and it's because you're literally leaking your life force energy. All right. So when I got this corrected and it changed and it started going up, that is a sign for you too, to be able to tell, like, if you're actually containing your own creation energy, which is sexual energy. That is your creation energy. Oh, hi, Chris. Just want to say hi. I saw him in the chat. Okay. So let's keep going though. All right. So what was the other thing that was needed to happen? Now, some of these things, okay, this is what they do to me all the time. Okay, they give me things and they tell me things, and then they're like, you got to figure it out. Okay, you got to figure out what it was that happened. So for a long time, they were leaving me, like I said, these breadcrumbs of what had happened to me. They'd given me dreams. Okay, lots of dreams. All that ended up happening and coming true at this one event, which was my wedding. And the thing that I found out, how do I even go into this part of it? See, because it took me a long time to get to the right words to ask them, is this what it is? Okay, so we'll just go ahead and we'll go into that story. Okay, because it came through a friend of mine that really guided me to this. Because honestly, I was happy. I was like, okay, I hadn't really fully accepted that I had the union inside myself with God. But I had a lot of friends around me that were really wanting a twin flame relationship. It's the number one thing I hear about the most, that people want this. And so I had a friend that was actually, or a client, I should say, that was actually paying me to try and, because I'm a great manifester, so she was like paying me to manifest what she believed was her twin flame. Okay. Well, hi, Greg. Nice to see you. Nice to see people showing up. So she was paying me at the time to try and manifest what she believed was her twin flame. Okay. And I mean, I'm not, who am I to say it is or isn't? I guess it's where I'm kind of really getting ready to go, but I just want to say that ahead of time. Like, I could be wrong, but to me, I thought to myself, okay, I just said to God, well, if twin flames is a real thing, and I can help people manifest these certain relationships or whatever it is, if I can, I'm going to need you to bring me the information that I need to know for sure, to know what it is, because how am I going to, because I have to know the frequency of the thing I'm asking for, so I can't just say, oh, as I'm doing the manifestation, if I don't know what it is inside me, because words without knowing the deeper meaning and doing the self-reflecting to know the deeper meaning are just words, and they don't hold any weight on their own. You have to have you have to have brought the meaning of that word inside of you and know it and ground it in you in order for you to be able to manifest it personally, I think. So I put this request out. Okay, you guys are going to need to bring me the information I need to know on twin flames. If I'm going to be able to help this girl at all, I'm going to need to know that they're real. I'm going to need to know that it's possible to even help manifest that for someone, and so they did. They brought the next day, within 24 hours, they had brought me new information I had not uncovered before. And so, but still, I was still hesitant. I was like, well, but what if we're wrong? What? And still, if I'm supposed to help her manifest twin flame, which even if they are real, how do I know what the frequency of that is? So the other thing that was happening around that time for me was my ears had perked up to another term. Okay. And the term was genetic equal. Okay. And now I'd heard this term because the frequency of twin flame, the words even just did not fit, did not sit right for me at the time. Because like I said, I just think that the corruption of what it means to the collective, okay, has just it's been twisted and tampered and tainted. Okay. Especially with the whole alien love bite thing, which we're going to go into in a second, because that's what I had to really stop and ask myself for her and anyone else that comes to me asking, like, hey, this is what's happening with my twin flame, yada, yada, yada. So I had heard this person, a friend of mine, and they had said the term genetic equal. Now, something about that term perked me right up. I was like, I like the sound of that term. What is that? I really want to know what a genetic equal is. Like, I feel like that's a good thing to ask for. At the time, I thought, okay, that would probably be a good companion to ask for, is a genetic equal. I seriously thought to myself, well, there's got to be a few of those, right? There's got to be a few genetic equals out there in the world, because when I put a request out, it's powerful. I already knew this about myself. I already knew, like, all I have to do if things are in alignment, all I have to do is just ask God for it. And usually within 24 hours, He gives me the answer that I need. He gives me the information that I need to know. And so I'd put out the request. I didn't even fully understand the term. I just felt the term. I just felt it. And I knew, I was like, this is the term. So, like I said, I figured there was probably a few of these out there in the world, right? And then spirits kept talking to me. And they said to me, like, you should probably look up a little bit more in detail what that term means. So I go to the Ascension Glossary, because that's where I get a lot of my synchronicities. Whenever they ask me to look up things, just random things, like the first time they'd ask me to do it, I was looking up the Nubian Black Heart. Okay. Come to find out, that was a term. I was completely still asleep when they told me that Anubis had my heart. Okay. And that it would, and I'd seen it black. Okay. So I always have these really intense synchronicities when it comes to this Ascension Glossary. So I decide, okay, and the other one was they told me sometimes, in the spirits, my spirit guides, they told me, sometimes on the other side I'm called a Melchizedek diamond. And now I also had gone to the Ascension Glossary, just spur of the moment one day, decided to look it up, and come to find out that the Melchizedeks were the blue flame holders, which is something I'd already felt inside me and resonated with since the moment I'd heard it. I knew, So a diamond Melchizedek actually it's basically because the Melchizedeks in these star seeds, we have a diamond heart. We have a crystal diamond heart. And so again, this was another synchronicity that was powerful. It kept me going. So this time I decided to look up. Okay, so I already asked for this genetic equal, so I figured there's a couple, I go and I look it up, okay, and I find out that a genetic equal, actually, it was a solar feminine Melchizedek, was the article, the actual page, that when I looked up genetic equal, that was the first one that came up, was the solar feminine Melchizedek. And I thought, that's kind of interesting, considering it's kind of like if the sun is a star, then a solar feminine Melchizedek says something to me about being kind of like a star. And that was the other thing they'd always told me, like, you shine like a star. When you can't see it, but in the other realms they can see that you shine like a star here on Earth. And so I looked it up and I start reading it. Okay, so solar feminine Melchizedek. What's a genetic equal? Well, apparently there's only one. And apparently, this is the person who, when you meet them, they're going to ignite DNA for you, ignite DNA sequences and such for you. They're going to activate you. And the way they do this is because they carry your rod and staff codes. Okay? Now, I'll be the first to tell you, like, some of these terms, the whole Ascension glossary, even when I first started reading it, it was like, damn, I can't understand a damn thing this thing is saying. Like these terms and these concepts, they're so technical and complex. But a part of me was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the information that I've needed. This is explaining so much to me, and I knew it was going to be one of those types of reference sources that was going to take time to unfold. Like, and I love that, okay, because I love things that have a deeper meaning. So this did not bother me. So I think that the rod and staff codes, okay, I think that has to do with the divine feminine and divine masculine template. Okay, so I think that, again, what I had originally asked God for was to have my divine masculine template restored. That was what I'd asked for. And, the only way apparently for this Hirmos, the sacred marriage to take place is if you have your rod and staff codes restored by your genetic equal. So when this came to me, okay, and I had been in denial for so long about even the fact that I just was taking it as my heart came back on. That was it. Okay. I didn't take it to the next level. I didn't look at it as the marriage because I was associating marriage with 3D human marriages. I wasn't thinking about, oh, this is a reunion with God inside myself. But sure enough, that is what it was. So now when people come and they ask me, for these, true love, they want that companionship, they want that life partner, I tell them, well, if you want something like that, you should probably try asking for your genetic equal. But I'm going to tell you right now that it does not come easy. I think that it takes time to prepare yourself for something like that. And in the meantime, if you are only focused on, oh, that I'm just waiting for that. Like, okay, for instance, okay, with the girl that was asking me to help her manifest her twin flame. Okay, what I had to stop and ask myself was this her real twin flame, or was this an alien love bite? And what is the difference between those two things? Okay, because I would think there'd be a difference that would be notable so that people could really try to uncover, where it is that they're being messed with or tampered with, And so, and even the room container this weekend got into it. Oh, hold on, I want to see what someone says. This okay. I'll try to answer that question in a minute. Miss Liz, don't let me forget about that question that Dennis has right there, and we'll go back up and do a couple of them here. So yeah, so the thing that I think is the difference and how you can tell the difference between an alien love bite or twin flame or genetic equal, whatever you want to call it, okay, is how does it make you feel inside? Okay. And does it lock you down or does it open you up more? Does it supply you with inspiration and wanting to be your full self and fully bloom into the self-realized version of your, like the highest version of yourself? Does it do that? I would think it'd be unconditional love. So that these were some of the things that I looked at when I was, dealing with this person. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, well, no, that love is very conditional. If the love is very conditional, I'm going to hesitate to think that is a twin flame love. Okay, I would think you want this other person to be happy. Okay, because if this person is your genetic equal, if you follow all the rules of what it's saying, they probably are going to feel your feelings. Okay, you're supposed to be feeling the same types of feelings, and if they're unhappy, you're going to be unhappy. So what you want, okay, it's got to be an unconditional love. It's got to be. Okay, you got to want for them to be true to themselves and make choices that are the best and most authentic for them and what is in their life. And and sometimes people aren't ready for each other. Sometimes more growing has to occur before a relationship like that can even take place. I think that in the meantime you will attract people to you, okay, that can still be very important, though, can still be lifelong companions and soulmates and kindred spirits and soul family, or whatever it is that you want to call it. All of these can be deep forms of love too. That if you're only focused on, well, if I don't have that label of a relationship with a twin flame, that I'm not going to have any relationship. But that's not the right way to go about it either. Okay, because now you're really just denying yourself the opportunity to grow with a partner. Okay, because people need each other. Men and women need each other. Human touch is actually a need. It's not even a want, it's a need. And men and women, they need each other. So in the meantime, while people are sitting there, you know um longing after this thing, or even staying in toxic relationships because it's the twin flame, what you're doing is you're making it so that no one is, you're not allowing yourself to have those intimate loving connections that you can still have and are still possible with other people. And we need each other. Okay, and the people are around you right now, we need each other. Okay, and the other thing you could be doing is that you could be holding on to one that's someone who you think is twin flame that's not. Okay, and now they're taking up the space of that person, and God can't fill up a space that's already taken. So that's some of the things that I started asking myself. Okay. Yep. And again, even though it's okay to want these things, your main goal and your main mission should be figuring out who you are. It should be figuring out how to make your connection with God, and how to return that, as you get as much of God's love inside you as possible, so that we can all heal together. Because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take us all coming together and figuring out how to do this stuff together, and clearing out our own heart spaces, so that way it will be reflected outward. Because that's the law. Once you what you have cleared up in here will be reflected outward. What you think about in here will be reflected outward, even if it's just in your own perception. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. So yeah, the main thing I want you to ask yourself when it comes to these twin flame alien love bite things is it making you feel good or bad about yourself? How is your emotional well-being inside yourself? Are you suffering over this? Okay, or are you not being as creative as you were because you're spending all your time focused on this one thing? Or are you being more inspired and more creational? And I'll tell you, for me, from that moment on of my sacred marriage, I felt so inspired and so moved to just keep going and doing new things. I took up dancing. I took up making these creation spreads, I call them. I took up making heart wishes. I started getting really good at what I do, and the love behind it was that inspiration, the love from that union. And that Mr. Squirrel friend over here. Stop and be looking at me. All right, we're good. We're good. All right, so I'm going to stop for a second, take a breath, maybe actually take a drink of water, read this real quick. Yes, yes, it can be quite difficult. Okay. Just reading over a few of these things, guys. Exactly. I don't want to see people unhappy and alone, when that's the biggest thing. We need to be there to, because like I've said before, it's not only important to be loved, it's important to be able to give your love to someone, and for someone to say, this love is good, thank you for this, I appreciate you, and yep, yes. So I got someone backing me up there, that blue jay. So let's keep going though. Okay, is there anything else I missed though? Yep, spiritual bypassing is a real thing. And people will use twin flames to do that. I'm waiting for my twin. I got to do that. You know who does that a lot? Aquarius North Node. They're like, I got to get this other person fixed before I can do anything. That's part of what they do. Okay. But yeah, we're going to get back into how do we restore the balance. I'm sorry. That is a good question. Again. All right. So thank you for the question. Thank you for the comments. Okay. So let's get into a little bit of the sacred sexuality, because I think this has a big part of it, because there was other things when it comes to preparing for my sacred marriage that I had to do to prepare ahead of time that I just did naturally. Okay, so like I said, I did this womb healing container. Okay, now, going back to cleaning up the mess. Okay, do I want to get into that first, or I'm going to go to this first? Let's go first into the sacred sexuality part. Like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Because I think that once I had my spin corrected in my root chakra, and I cleared out the womb space and cleared out the cords from past lovers, I think that what changed was that there was more of an innocence and a playfulness to it. Now, I had actually been in a relationship about, I don't know, it was like 9 months before this event. I had ended this relationship that I had been in for a very long time, which that's what I'm about to get into a little bit of that. And, I had been struggling with my sexuality at that point. I didn't really feel comfortable doing it. I didn't know why. I felt obligated to, though. I felt like, I'm in this relationship with this person, and they pretty much made it clear, like, if we're in this relationship, then you're expected to do these things. But, I had this powerful walk-in experience, and my walk-in was not exactly cool with this whole ideal. She was basically like a child in a body and being expected to behave and do things in a way that a woman should. And I didn't know how to get out of that, quite frankly. So when I got to the point where I was ending this relationship, it was then that I decided, oh yeah, you know what? I'm never going to do that again if I don't feel like it. I'm taking that off the table. Like, oh, I'm free. I don't ever have to do that again if I don't want to. And so I started being more true and authentic and standing up for myself and who I was, and standing up for my heart and what my real feelings were, and so I actually was, I was celibate for a long time before and after the event, and I just think that it's just something that I started taking in reformatting in my mind as something different than what I'd grown up finding it to be. I felt like it very much went back to child stuff. Like I started with just even the ideal of just even kissing someone was hard for me to imagine, like, oh, like that silliness, And so sacred sexuality, I think the difference that we have to learn, okay, is that there is a difference between lust and passion. There's a difference. Okay, they're similar, okay, but they're different. Now, if you're acting in lust, that is not where you want to be acting from. I honestly feel like this is just a theory of mine, but I actually feel like lust kind of is something that is when sexual energy stays in the root chakra and is only used in the root chakra. I think that once that sexual energy, it comes in, okay, and let's say that fire gets ignited, okay, I think what it needs to happen, I think it needs to be pushed up into the heart space. And I think that's when it's pushed up into the heart space, that's when it can turn into passion. Okay? So there's a difference. So I think that people need to learn the difference between lust and passion, okay, because it's just a slight little frequency difference. Okay, I think that people need to slow down when it comes to wanting to take action. You know what I'm saying? Like it's exciting. Sexuality is a very exciting experience. And you shouldn't have to feel ashamed of it. That's for sure. You definitely shouldn't feel ashamed of it, or like it's something that you should hide from, because it's really a beautiful thing. It's God's love for us in the body. It's how we were meant to actually experience our sense of being, is be able to live in that joy and that happiness, in that orgasmic kind of state all the time. I really do think that's what we were meant to be, because it's that energy that is the creation energy. Okay, the sexual creation energy. When you move it up and you move it out and you can create things in this world, it's completely different experience than when you're just using sexuality as a means to an end, okay? And letting your creation energy spill out. All right, so you want to go slow because the foundation of intimacy and safety between a man and a woman is something that's a slow build, especially for women. Okay, but it also for men. Men are very interesting creatures. I find, quite honestly, that even though a lot of them talk about wanting sex a lot, which I have no doubt, human beings, especially men, being more visually driven and stuff like that, a lot of times, quite honestly, they want something more innocent. A lot of times, the men I come into contact with, even though they think that they want that, the thing that they end up actually wanting is to be held, to hold a woman, to be able to give her attention in a manly, womanly way. Giving her a gift, writing her poetry, writing her a song, holding hands. It's courtship. Courtship needs to be. I think courtship needs to make a comeback. Quite honestly, and honestly, I'm a kind of a woman that it takes a lot of courtship for me personally. Like, because for a woman, you have to be willing to completely surrender yourself to the act if you're really going to do it in a way that is giving it the reverence and the respect that it deserves. And a woman can't do that. She can't surrender if she doesn't feel safely contained. And that is the job of the divine masculine, is to make a woman feel safe and contained so that she can blossom and bloom into the full rose that she is. Okay? So I feel like people need to realize that when you approach sex, okay, it's got to come from a place of reverence. It's got to come from a place of you're respecting and you're seeing that form of God in another person. Okay, where this is just how I approach it anyway. I go into it, and when I have the rare opportunity that it does line up somehow, you know, um, I look at it like, hey, me and this other person are the only people that even exist. This is God. I am the goddess, and we are joining together, and we are going to create this experience and experience each other, and and come into a deeper joy and union with ourselves through this share and this exchange of energies. So I just really think it's important that if you can't reach that point of being able to see the God in the other person, then it's take a step back. That might be lust. It might be lust. If you're not looking at them like a God being, that might be lust. Hi, Greg. Nice to see you show up here too. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some of the more personal stuff. Awesome. So how did I clean up my mess at home? Okay, so here's where it got very, very difficult, okay, because I'd had a lot of things I was not owning up to. Okay, so like I mentioned, like I was in a relationship about 9 months before my sacred marriage took place. And I'd also mentioned this in my other live streams. What had actually ended my first marriage, okay, was that I basically had been infidelitous and was leaving my husband for another man, okay, and I had to come back and I had to own that, and it destroyed my first marriage. So here I was, all these years later, kind of almost in the exact same position, only it was slightly different because I actually hadn't physically gone and been with anyone else, but there was someone else that I had been talking to on the internet. There was a man, and he was actually the man that I chose between the two men that I was talking about with the past lifetime of learning forgiveness. Okay, so there was this. I met him on the internet, and something was different. Okay, there was something different about this person. And I knew when it happened, when they tried to take a step back for a moment. They blocked me over something, over a weird synchronicity, because I guess Spirit had been telling him that I was coming too. So, and he was afraid of it. And so he blocked me for a moment. And when he blocked me, pulled the rug out from under me. And for the first time, I realized, oh, wow, there's feelings here. There's real feelings here. Feelings I had not felt in years, okay, in years and years. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I can never go back to pretending again. Now that I know this feeling and the difference, because my relationship had not started, had not restarted. This was a 15-year on again, off again relationship with my ex here, okay, and it had not restarted, even though he on good terms, even though he was there for my daughter every single day. I kind of, and I'll get to this part, okay. So I got confronted because basically, even after I chose that man, okay, over the two, okay, and I was like, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave this bad relationship that I don't have these feelings for anymore. I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to make plans and make a life with this other person, okay. But that's when it hit me. Oh my God, I'm doing the exact same thing that I did last time. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to make a different choice, because I'd already done so much growth and healing that I knew. I was like, this is not acceptable. So I broke up with the guy. I told him, I'm sorry. I have to turn my back on this one, and I have to return my back to this other relationship and see if it's possible for it to be saved, because I didn't know if it was going to be able to be saved or not. But I thought I need to go ahead and see if I can save this for my children. Like if there was any way to prevent them from having to suffer, I was going to make sure I tried to do that. Well, he was so upset that he actually went and he told my ex everything. And I got confronted. I got confronted hardcore. And it was not easy. And I was sitting there on my chair as my ex was, confronting me on this. And I didn't even know what to do. I felt like I was going to pass out, And so I just, I'd gone into my heart and I had screamed for help. And the response I got was, tell him the truth. And so then I had to ask myself, what was the truth? Okay. And this is where the importance of courage comes in. Okay. Because it was very hard for me to tell him the things that I had to tell him, which was basically that it wasn't that I didn't love and care about him. I did. I did love and care about him. He's the father of my daughter and one of my sons. Like, of course, I'm always going to care about him. Okay. Always going to love him. And, but the truth was that the foundation of our relationship had been so badly damaged from all of those 15 years on again, off again, and from his own unhealed wounds, okay, that I did not have the same connection that I had that a person should have to act naturally in accordance with wanting to be committed to a person and devoted to a person. And so I told him, I was just trying to do what was best for my daughter. And there came a point where she would try to, like, as she was getting older, even though we hadn't been together, she wanted to see us together. Like 1 year old, 2 years old, like trying to force us to kiss and stuff, like pushing us together, like asking us to get closer. And so for her, I thought, well, if this is the time in her life where she's building this ideal of what it's supposed to look like between a man and a woman, then I guess I should try to make the best that I can of it. And I guess I should fake it until I make it, so to speak. And so that's what I had been doing. Not only that, but I didn't even feel that love, that I didn't feel any feelings inside me, So I thought, okay, well, but she needs to have this example, so I'll do this. And so I told him this, I told him, I just didn't know what else to do. I just wanted to do what was best for Sarah. And I didn't know I didn't have those feelings until this other man came along. And that was not an easy thing to tell him, because the truth of the matter is that I had been a coward. I had been a coward by even being unwilling to go the distance and push it home, so to speak, and getting him to see, like, hey, something is really wrong here. Instead of facing that and owning that truth and saying, hey, this isn't working anymore, I went behind his back and emotionally cheated on him with this other person. Like that like that just wasn't okay. And I had to admit that. I had to apologize for that. There was nothing I could do to change that other than to just be as brave and courageous as I could now every single time. And my story did not change. And I think he thought it would. I think he thought if he just kept pushing and pushing and pushing that it would become something else. But the truth doesn't change. The truth is the truth. And so the truth was, it's just, I couldn't fake it. And he deserved better. He deserved better. Okay, so, yep. Okay, we got over that part. I'm just going over this real quick, guys. Hold on. Yep, the foundation had been. So I did try to work it out. Okay, so I did try to work it out with him, and I could not. Because honestly, I could not. It was the sexuality part of it. And that was what he was always so upset about with me. It was just that I was this one way when we first knew each other at the beginning, and now I was someone completely different. And that's what I tried to tell him. Like, I can't go back to being that girl that behaved in those ways with you. I'm just not that person anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just trying to be true to myself. And so, yeah, I had to tell him for good, like, I'm sorry, I can't be with you in this way anymore. And then we still had to live together for 2 years. That was not fun. That was not easy. But at the same time, I was actually grateful for the slow departure, so to speak, because I knew that this was going to be hard for my children. I knew especially it was going to be hard for my daughter. And so I really wanted the opportunity for, if there was any possibility of me and him at least working as friends, it's co-parenting. I wanted to see if there was a way for us to do that. And now there is, and now we are doing really good. We don't have arguments and stuff anymore. He doesn't have the opportunity to be mean towards me anymore because I'm not there. So so things got a lot better from me having done this. Okay. Because the thing that really destroyed our relationship, honestly, was the words from his unhealed wounds. People, when they're unhealed and they have these temper tantrums, so to speak, they can say things that are just so cruel. Words are powerful things, personally. And that was the other thing. I had actually written him a letter. I had written him a huge, long letter years ago that I only found right before I moved out just recently. Okay. And he had kept this letter in his top drawer. And I went over it and I totally forgotten about it. And I went over it and I read it. And I had told him all of these things years ago. I had asked for his help. I had told him, I had confessed to him the things that was the hardest for me to confess, which that I wasn't feeling love anymore inside my heart. And I was afraid that I was never going to feel it again. And I was begging for his help to reconnect. And it fell on deaf ears and he did nothing. So I just want to remind everyone, like, words are powerful. I personally don't play with my words. Okay. I really try to, like, be careful and be cautious of what it is I'm saying and trust me. So this is the thing. If I say something, I mean it. I mean it in the moment. Okay. Even if it's harsh, like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying. Yeah. So basically the point of that one is be brave and tell people the truth with love because they deserve to know the truth. Some of the messages that Spirit asked me to deliver, most of the messages that they asked me to deliver to people are actually really positive things, but they're not always, and that's something I've had to learn to get used to because sometimes the hardest messages, if you really love someone, if you really care about someone, you have to be honest with them and you have to deliver these hard messages sometimes. And so that is the thing about having my heart turned back on and shining it like a bright light. Okay. Because it's the power of my heart and it's a frequency of healing that it takes to people now. It shines like the sun. It's bright. Think about a bright light. What happens when you're shining bright lights on things? Well, it can cast bigger shadows. So when I started giving my love and sharing my love with people, okay, I started to see the patterns. I started to see the effects that it was having on people. And some of it was good and some of it, most of it was good. Most of the experiences of how I've seen it work have been good, but it wasn't always. Okay, because the whole thing is that the bright light of my heart is going to make those shadows stand out, but it's only to help you get that space clear in your own self so that your own heart can shine as bright as mine, and it will burn up those shadows when you do that. It will burn that up once you get that heart light turned back on. We need and up brighter. We need to turn up the light. Okay? So I have seen the effects that it can have on a person when my love is given to them. I've seen it literally. I've seen people change completely, like, and just get better over time, and that's the most rewarding part of it. When I see someone clean up their act, someone who was like addicted to porn or something like that, and now they're not watching that anymore, and now they're out there actually trying to make a life for themselves, and they're feeling good about themselves, and they're feeling better about themselves, and that usually comes after a harsh message that I have to deliver, and I'm like, please, God, don't make me say these things, but it's like, these are questions that people need to ask themselves. They're just things, like, why is it that you behave in a certain way? What is it that you feel like you were lacking when you were a child that maybe makes you feel like you don't get enough in this certain way or that way? But sometimes it works the opposite. Like I said, I've seen it go the opposite way. I've seen it break people. I've seen it push people to the point where it actually gets worse. And, they think they're being psychically attacked and all this stuff. They blame me for it. And I'm like, you think I have time to sit here and psychically attack you, like, with 6 kids, and the life that I'm trying to create with all this stuff? Like, no. So love is powerful and love is healing. And when true divine love comes into your heart, that is your opportunity. When true divine love shows itself to you, that is your opportunity to really get real with yourself and take an honest and good assessment of where it is that you are not feeling your best at. Things that make you feel bad about yourself, those are things that you really should pay attention to. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to get into was, I guess, a little side note. I wrote this here. I had a dream one time. I had a dream that I was walking along this. I was walking in a field. I was walking along this trail, and there was like tall grass on either side of me, and it was really bright light outside. And I came to like what looked like a hobbit home almost. Okay, and there was a woman there. Oh, we got a visitor. You guys can't see it, but the neighborhood cat is here right now. Hello, Isabella. Hello. It's nice to see you. So in this dream, I came to this like hobbit home, and there was this woman in it, and she came out and she was talking to me, and I was telling her, yeah, I was taking the back road to get here. I was taking the long way around, and to the right of me was a giant portal. It looked like a Stargate. And like from the movie Stargate, from the TV show Stargate, it looked like a Stargate. And inside the Stargate, I could see the new Earth. I could see Gaia. And she said to me, Gaia needs strong and powerful leaders. And I asked her, powerful how? And she said, willpower. Okay. And that's when I knew, okay, so what is willpower? And how do I cultivate more of that? Because, just to connect it back to the whole Pirates of the Caribbean thing that I always love to keep talking about, that's what I feel like is the importance of Will Turner. He's a will turner. Willpower is the thing that we need the most of in order to start creating our will on earth, or in God's will on earth. Because once you get in alignment with God, your will and God's will should line up. And the things that you want and desire should be the same thing. Okay, so we need people who are willing to go the distance, okay, and to align themselves with God's will, because God's will is to heal the planet, and it's to have you healed, and it's to have you happy. Okay, and so once you be willing to do that, all right, you can get the show on the road. Okay, so the other thing we're going to get into is, let's see how much more I got left here. Yep, we're doing on time. All right. The other thing I wanted to get into was patterns. Okay. Patterns of how I discovered was how I discovered where places that I was actually having self-betrayal. Okay. This came up to me. It's just been going through my mind quite a bit. And actually, I actually had a synchronicity happen today with the whole ideal of patterns, because I was thinking about it. I actually have a room in the astral that I go to. I call it my pattern making room. And it's actually like a room in a school. And like a Harry Potter type school. And in this room, you guys can, I'm telling you, so you guys can go check it out if you want, because it's there. It's in the astral. All right. And it's like a cube like table. It comes all the way up. All right, it's like a rectangle. It comes up, it's like round, and then in the middle of it is a circle, and in this circle is the pattern maker. Okay, and now it kind of reminded me of like you have to use this sound tool on it. Okay, and you hold this sound tool over it, and it looks kind of like a spirograph, and it creates these beautiful patterns. Now, when I decided to look at the pattern, I was doing one the other day, and I was looking at it, and I noticed that it was just beautiful rainbowy type of thing. It was very detailed and complex. And today, while I was scrolling through Facebook, I came across Aurora and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And if you guys know who she is, I came across her, and the pattern behind her and on her clothes was the pattern from my astral pattern room. I was like, okay, an Aurora, okay. So anyway, let's look at the patterns. Let's see how they kind of show up, okay, for people, and how it showed up for me anyway. Okay, so yeah, how this actually leads to self-doubt. Okay, so it started with this past winter. Okay, I had a bet with someone. All right, I had a bet that. Oh, I see Alexis. Ah, hi Alexis. Glad you could make it. So anyway, there was there was a bet I had with someone over the winter time. Okay, like this is someone that I've been sharing a lot of my stories with, a lot of my personal, intimate, my pearls, so to speak. And this person, they also were asking me a lot of questions about themselves, like, and psychically, I told them stuff. It's I trust myself enough psychically at this point to kind of really know that I'm giving you some good information here. But it's always nice to have it confirmed. So I told this person quite a few things. I shared with them quite a few stories, and they had gone to another channeler. They had scheduled a session with this other channeler, who is Ivan Teller. I'll just tell you that now, because he's just a great channeler. And I'd had a session before, and it was really accurate feeling to me. So I sent this person to that person, and they had a list of questions ready, and they had a bet. Me and him we only had one. We had one question that was on the table for me, and that was what their last name meant. And so I told them, what I thought it meant. And they were like, if you get it right, then I'll buy you this thing, and I'm like, okay, so they come back after the session and they're like, you got to listen to this session. So I do. And not only did I get the last name thing right, but I'd gotten every question that he'd asked. He had asked me before. And basically, Ivan had put it in just his own words, saying the same things that I had said. And his mind was this person's mind they were so mind blown, like, oh my God, like, can you believe all the things they said, And I'm like, oh yeah, I can believe it, They're like, I can't believe you knew all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like, and you would think this would be like a win, right? You're like, oh, finally, but actually, I was quite upset about this. Because I could tell now that this person had not believed me and had not been taking me that seriously when it came to my stories, when it came to the pearls that I was sharing with them. And I knew it. And here's the thing. Every time I was sharing these things with them, I knew they weren't believing me. I could feel it. And I would even bring it up and I would say something about it. I would say, like, it just feels like, like you're doubting me. It feels like you're just like kind of brushing me off. And like, why do I even bother sharing like these most magical stories with someone? I'd rather just not then. It's okay if you don't believe me, but don't pretend. Don't pretend. I just can't stand someone who pretends to be something and to feel something that they're not, to I can't stand it. So, the first thing I felt was, like, wow, like this person like betrayed me, like they pretended to believe me, but they didn't. But no, actually, the person that really betrayed me was myself. The person that betrayed me was myself, because I knew, I had felt it. I knew that they weren't believing me during those times, and this just ignited this thing in me. And I just knew from that point on, I told myself I would not going to doubt myself again, and I'm going to trust myself from now on. That is what has to happen. I have to trust myself, because here what I had done was I had done the very thing I was afraid of doing again, which was casting my pearls before swine. I had done that very thing, and I knew it. I knew it the whole time, and I didn't listen to myself, and I betrayed myself. But this was not the first time that I experienced this. Okay. So where could I look back to find out, where did this become a pattern? Where did allowing myself to feel that portraying myself, when did that become a normal thing for me to allow? Okay. So I could tell you, from that communications class that I had, the teacher at one point, I had shared a story in class about an incident that happened between me and my mom. And I was like, telling the story, and I was getting all emotional. And I was like, but I'm over it. I said that in the class, I'm over it. And the teacher called me out and he said, no, you're not. If you were over it, you wouldn't be having this kind of an emotional reaction. And at the time, I was so upset that I literally cried the rest of the class. I like threw a temper tantrum, like, I'm over it. No, I'm over it. Like, oh God. But no, he was right. He was right. I was not over it. And so this became like a cornerstone of my healing, to look at this particular incident and figure out how can I heal it, and what is the truth of it. Okay, so what had happened was, when I was 12 years old, and how I ended up betraying myself the first time that I can remember, okay, was, my mom was a single mom. She was basically my mom and my dad. My dad had passed away when I was 8. I'd not even ever met him, so it wasn't, I didn't really feel sad about that part at the time, but I was 12, and I'd asked her something, and it had triggered her. She was worried about money. It had to do with money. And so she fell back on some patterns of her own, and she yelled at me and scolded me for a good hour. I'm a 12-year-old girl. I was in tears. I went to my room and to calm down, and she came in to apologize. But I'd had some time to think while I was in there, and I knew what she would say, because it was the same thing I'd always heard and that she repeated for a very long time. And it was like, I'm sorry, but I'm just really stressed out, and we take it out on the ones we love the most. So that was supposed to be the thing that was supposed to make me feel better, right? Well, she loves me the most, so that's why she took it out on me. And I just said to her, I got up the courage, and this was a terrifying thing for a 12-year-old girl to say to their mother and father, basically in one body. And I said to her, well, if loving me the most means that I have to put up with that and to go through that, then I don't want you to love me the most. I'd rather you not. And that got her. That got her in a way I didn't expect it to get to her. And she actually got mad at me. And she left me in my room, because she'd asked me for a hug, and I was like, I don't even want to hug right now, because I want to be reassured that you're going to take my feelings serious, and you're not going to treat me this way anymore. Okay. And so she didn't, though. She got upset at me. She got angry at me, and she made me doubt myself. She left my room, and I sat there, and I threw a fit and cried like so loud, thinking it would get her attention to come back in. And she didn't. And I had to go back out to her. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. It was torturous. I went out to her, and I apologized to her for having said that. And that was the first time that I learned how to betray myself. Okay, so now when these things come up for me, I can recognize that. Okay, and I can learn to, even now, it still is teaching me, like, to go back to that moment, who I am now, to go back to that version of me, that 12-year-old girl, and to correct that. Okay. And to say to that 12-year-old girl, no, you didn't get it wrong. You actually had it right. And here's why. Okay. And now I can explain to her because I know more of my own mother's story. Okay. Now, this is the part of the story that, this is where the pattern, how the patterns keep cycling. All right. So for my own mother, when she was 12 years old, she actually had a very traumatic incident happen to her. And, I apologize if she ever sees this and it sees all the details that I'm sharing with people, but this is the only way I can think to do it. So when she was 12 years old, she grew up in an era where, her dad was a factory worker. He was a farmer before that. It was a hard life. They had a lot of kids. He was an alcoholic. He was a wife, domestic violence, a woman beater, basically. And my mom had to grow up watching that. And even though he was the one doing all these things, my grandfather, he still always kept thinking, he would accuse my grandmother of all the things that he was doing. And so when my mom was 12 years old, at one point, my grandfather, I guess, my grandmother was out doing something with her friends, and he was furious thinking that she was cheating on him. And so he was like, I'm going to go out there and find you a new mommy. And she said to him, well, you know what? I would rather have a new daddy. I'd rather have a new dad than a new mom. And he punched her in the face. And my grandmother wasn't there at the time. And so, she had told me this story before, and it was devastating to hear it. And finally one day I just got the idea. I asked her, I said, well, how did grandma respond though? What did she do? And you know what? She said, I was like, you told her that happened. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, and what did she do? And she's like, she did nothing. Information. So from looking at it, like reshifting it, like what would that say to a young girl? It would say she's alone in this world. It would say that she can't trust anyone in the world. She can't trust her mother to be there for her, even though she stood up for her mother. She was betrayed by her mother at that point, by her not defending. Hey, you should, it's like, but again, like this is from the 12-year-old perspective, because at the same time, going back to that, she was probably afraid she would get hit too again. But still, so this is where that pattern and that generational curse, so to speak, of self-betrayal gets taught and passed down. Not only that, but here's my mom's example of what a divine masculine and a divine feminine are supposed to be behaving and acting like. And I think it came down to her asking, like, well, which example do I want to take after? Like, do I want to be the weak one, the weak submissive one that gets beat, or do I want to be the one that's the strong one? But I don't want to be like that, she told herself. Like, I'm not going to be violent like that, but out of the two choices, I can understand why she chose to act more like her father. I can tell why she leaned back more into that, because she's seen what it does to her mother. And even though she wanted not to be violent in that way, she still ended up being violent, just in a different way, with her words, with the way she used her words, the tone, and the lengths that she would go to release the stress. She was doing the exact thing that she hated, that she never wanted to be, and she was doing that. She was doing that to me, okay? Because my grandfather was very much a right fighter, and so my mom was a right fighter, and you know what happens when you have a mother who's a right fighter? Well, she never lets you be right. So I was wrong all the time. I was never allowed to be right about anything. I was always wrong. My perspective, my perception. No, it didn't happen like that. It happened. You're wrong. Let me explain to you my side of the story so you can switch your feelings up somehow magically. Like that didn't work. Because that's the thing. She was so afraid of being the thing that she hated. She could not even acknowledge it. It was her ego. It was fragile ego. She could not acknowledge that it was possible for her to have hurt me in such a way that she'd been hurt, because parents do love their children so much, and she did not want to hurt me, but she did end up hurting me. And it's something I had to come to terms with and learning how to forgive her for. And I do, because like I said, I can have empathy, and I can have compassion, and I can look back at her life and see where these things were picked up and how they were shared and passed down. And now I have to do my best job to make sure that I break those those ways that it was passed down, I have to break it inside of my own self. Okay, because what was I doing when I chose to stay in that relationship with my ex, with my daughter's father? What was I really doing when I decided to fake it till I make it? I was giving her the example, because children are very good energy readers, and my daughter, she's so telepathic, she's so psychic. Okay, and so what I was setting her up now, I feel like, okay, was, okay, well, it's the way you act is you fake it, you fake it. I was teaching her, like, to have something that wasn't real, to give her an example of something that wasn't sincere and authentic. And that's why, even though it was as hard as it was for me to break things off, okay, in my last relationship, I did it because I knew that my daughter and my children, they deserved better. They deserved an example of what love looks like, what real love is, what real love feels like. And that's really been the main thing that's been driving me to heal and get right, is to be that example for them and others in the world. Okay, so yeah, bottom line is, really pay attention to the stories that people share. Oh, hi, Trevor. Hi, Brooklyn Way. Hi, Trevor. Hi, guys. Hi, Z. Oh my God. I didn't expect you guys all to come in here. Wow. I don't know how long you guys were there, but so anyway, to get to the bottom line here, okay, we're going to wrap it up, all the things that I've been talking about today. The stories that people share with you, they're important, and they tell you so much about what needs healing in them if they're telling you a story and they're having an emotional reaction and response. And that's where we got to be there for each other and try to and listen to each other and to help people see that, like, how do we heal from this? How do we heal from these things? How do we let go? How do we stop the patterns? Yeah, I guess that's really the bottom line. But okay, so someone was asking a question, and I think it was something about how do we come into inner balance. I think that was what it was. Okay, let's see. I know it was Barry. Let's go back. Or was it Dennis? Which one of you guys did it? Which one of you guys asked? Dennis, okay, how do we restore balance? How do we restore balance? Getting real with yourself on the inside. For me, it was really, like I said, I began imagining the relationship between my divine masculine and my divine feminine, and you'd be surprised how they just naturally take their places in the things that you're already thinking, in the ways the programs you already have set up. They'll interact in those ways, and most likely, like I said, it's going to be reflected out in your relationships. Okay, so the inner balance has to come inside of you, figuring out what it means to you, what the divine feminine and divine masculine, what those two things actually mean to you. Okay, that deeper meaning. I'm trying to feel if there's anything else that I can pull from this. That's a tough question. It takes a while to build that. I'm still learning balance. I mean, I moved into this new house and it threw my balance all sorts of off. Like, all of my routines went out the window. I did not know how to be in this new house. I'm only now coming back into it. I'm only now coming back into myself again in a balanced way. I mean, and getting real with how I spend my time, which is hard to do sometimes, but you're like, oh, but if it makes you feel bad about yourself, you can tell by how you feel inside if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I absolutely know, I could feel that urge in me. And, part of the biggest reason is because I was allowing other people to distract me and to take my life energy with stupid things, arguments, and, just like, yeah, coming out of that now, though, guys. Coming out of that now. I'm realizing that, I really just need to use my time more wisely. And, I just can't stop. Most of the time, the thing that I really like to do the most at this point lately is just think about these live streams, and it's what I'm going to do next on these live streams. What can I bring next to these live streams to help share with people what it is the processes that I'm even going through and how I'm reaching this, this state of being, this way of being, my new life, the new life that I'm creating for myself. And that's going to take time to figure out. I'm getting thrown off, I can tell, because it's been a while now. I've been on for at least an hour here, so that's usually what I try. I try to stop and keep it under an hour. But yeah, oh, thank you guys. I really appreciate all the comments here. So yeah, you guys could do me a favor before I leave here. Yep. Sorry, I'm just reading your little comments now. Can't speak to us before. Yes, we do share similar karma. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. 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 So one last thing. Okay, one more thing. So what if you're looking for? Okay, ask for your genetic equal. If you're looking for that partnership that it's supposedly a twin flame and stuff, that twin flame relationship, ask for your genetic equal, but be prepared to do the work. If you ask God for something like that and you're not prepared inside, He's going to start shaping you up. Okay, He's going to start, fixing the foundation. It's the foundation that needs to be repaired. And once that's repaired, you have that state, because you want to just keep building on top of that foundation of who you are, who you really are, because you want to be unshakable in that. Okay, no one else can tell you who you are. And it took me a long time to get to the place where I could say, this is who I am. That I am, I'm Aurora Diamond Heart. I am the Blue Fairy. I experienced the sacred divine marriage within myself. I've had my heart restored after it died. It took me a long time to get to those things. All right. I was always, kind of at the beginning, you kind of look outside yourself for someone to tell you those things. But then that's never going to be it's not going to be meaningful enough to create that strong foundation. Okay. Because if you have someone telling you and you're not sure about it, okay, it's like building your foundation on sand. Okay. And when the water comes, it's just going to take it away. When that storm comes, it's going to take it away. Okay. You got to be prepared for those tower moments in your life. And the only way you can be prepared for those is if you have built that strong foundation so that you can be unshakable in your truth and who you are. Okay. So I think I did. Okay. I think that's enough for today. Please like and share my video. Okay, please like and share my video and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with someone that you think might need it or might help. I do tarot and astrology readings. Still, I also do manifestation coaching. If you want to reach me, you can get me at auroradiamondheart@gmail.com. Okay, or you can find me on Facebook at Aurora Diamond Heart. Okay, and it's going to be, listen, there's two of them. Okay, because I created one as a backup. All right, but the one that I communicate on the most is the one where I have a tree in the background. The tree is around me. Okay, or you can find me at Villanelle2 on Instagram. Okay, so I just want to tell everyone, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here and supporting me through one more live stream. I'm gonna keep going. It's like exciting and terrifying at the same time. So I kind of feel like that's kind of a mix of the right emotions. So that keeps me going. And thank everyone who's been like reaching out and encouraging me and telling me how much the lives have been helping them. That helps me. Okay, so if this touches you in any way and you want to share it with me, okay, please tell me. Please, I would love to hear it. Okay, so that's all I got for today. So God be with you guys. I love you. Take care. I hope you have a great day. And I hope that you find your genetic equal out there. Okay, love you guys.